So we're going to look at values beyond square roots. We're going to look at cube roots, fourth roots, fifth roots, sixth roots.
How many colors called?
Answer.
Math English.
Can I answer?
A radicand is the symbol we associate with that square root. However, that is not
No, there's a computer.
the index. N is the value of the root. For a square root, because it is the most commonly used radicand, we don't put the 2. Any radicand or root beyond a square root gets the number. So cube root, fourth root, fifth root, sixth root, etc. The radicand is what's under it. And as we just previously discussed with Addie, any nth root can be rewritten as a power that is a fraction to the nth index. All odd roots can potentially have negative values. So a cube root can have a positive or negative answer. A square root will only have positives.
I know the answer to number 1 for fast facts.
Finding the square root of a number and squaring a number are inverse operations. Finding the square root of a number and squaring a number are inverse operations. If the index n is even, the radicand must be positive. If it is odd, it can be either. If n is odd, there is only one real root. If n is even, there are
2,
good job, or
4, or 6, or 8, or 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. That's it. Dominica's number is 8. Number
43.
Dominica, you're even.
so in a table for, suppose n is a number greater than 1.
I just said okay,
So n is any number greater than 1. If the integer n is even versus the integer n being odd. And again, for that n value, we are talking about this setup. Like this is what we were discussing. The n is the number on the root, the a is the number with inside. A being greater than 0 simply means that it is positive. This implies that a is negative, and then that's if a is 0.
Is that 0 or O?
A 0.
April, when is your Harry Styles concert? Of what month? There's not 28. It's actually 4. Wow. I'm crying. I'm sorry, you cried. My haircut's new.
I know, I can't believe you color your hair. That's actually crazy.
It's a little crooked.
Yeah, I just cried my hands because I was laughing.
Crooked across the front, yeah.
I think it looks good.
Is that better? I think it's the angle you're looking at it.
Why are you pushing it now? Push it back up and then. Don't push it down. When you push it down, it makes the fly look stupid.
All right, let's simplify.
I'm just used to
So if you have plus or minus the square root of 36, y 8. Remember that a square root is really the same as the 1/2 power. So what we do is simplify perfect squares the same way you do. So it's the square root of 36. So this is plus or minus 6. Now, it's like y to the 8 to the 1/2 power. So you multiply a power to a power, right? So 8 times a half is
4.
I actually don't. I let it hit somebody.
What?
Yeah,
okay, 32. Does 32 simplify?
No.
Because it is not a.
Perfect square.
So what do we have to do?
Plus,
take out the 4.
what's that called again?
So the
Yes, like a little mini factor tree with the perfect squares. So square root of 16 is,
4.
and then x to the 5th
it's 2 squared, 4 squared.
is kind of like 4 and x, because anytime you have an odd x under square root, one's always going to stay behind.
So it would be 4x squared square root of 2x. What? That's confusing.
Now, what's new about this problem than anything we've done before?
You're going down to the 4.
Yeah, we're going to the 4th root. So instead of multiplying exponents by a half, we're going to multiply them by 4th. And then the numbers, instead of looking for sets of 2 or perfect squares, we're looking for,
4.
yeah,
So it would be
fourths. It would be 2. Because 2 to the 4th is,
16.
so then the 4th root of 16 becomes 2. And then it's x minus 3, well, the 12th times a 4th. So what is 12 times 1/4?
3. Wait,
What?
the x,
The x minus 3 just stays the same.
Yes.
and it comes out. Wait,
It doesn't come out, it becomes a cube. So if it was x to the 12th, you would make it x cubed.
wait, I
Now-
thought it would stay under the square root though.
Nothing says under because it divides nicely.
It's like a perfect
Oh.
root to the 4th.
But, and it's coming up in the notes, what happens when you have an even power to an even exponent that becomes a final answer of an odd exponent?
That's still plus or minus, right?
No plus or minus.
Because it's odd.
What's on?
Something raised to an even power will always come out
On even.
Even. Both.
positive. So if it goes from being an even power to an odd power, what do we need to add back?
The plus or minus.
Oh.
Absolute value. Who was that first with you, right?
Oh, that's pretty simultaneous.
Good job, Nico.
I was getting it.
Okay.
Ava, Tom, good job. Give him a pound.
You need 2 absolute value of the x minus 3 cubed because it became even, odd.
Oh, so it has to go up. So it doesn't go over the.
Now, if it's an odd nth root to start, it doesn't matter because odds can be positive or negative. So, does everybody know if there's a number that becomes 243 to the 5th power?
17.
17 times 17 times 17 times 17 times 17 is
4.
way bigger than 243.
No, it's not 4.
4.
No.
3.
What if I told you I was right?
What's 3 to, it's pretty sure it's 3 to the 5th.
Yeah, it is 3 to the 5th. It's not 4.
Gosh, I was so
It's 3.
close.
Where you found it?
Now, what do you think you do with these powers and that 5?
Divide.
Yeah, and what do we divide them by?
5.
5.
So 10 divided by 5 is
2.
2.
15 divided by 5?
3.
Whoa.
That's wrong.
Look, I wrote the 3 before the B.
He's taking a pee.
Alright. So, this is the absolute value rule I just reiterated. I was hoping maybe we'd remember it. So you use absolute values when it is an even on the outside of the root.
So when do we leave
The
plus
stuff
minus?
inside is even, and your final answer outside is odd.
When do we leave the plus or minus?
When it's there to start.
So even if it's not, then if
Okay.
it wasn't there.
Your homework is that next page with those practice problems. If there's no plus or minus, you don't put one. If there's no plus or minus, you don't add one. Yeah, if you're going on the band trip, go ahead and show me your homework now.
The homework that's due tomorrow is due Monday. So.